What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good day. We're still in Honolulu, Hawaii. About a week ago, I was driving around and I was going over this overpass, and it was a sick shot of the highway going into the city. And I was like, you know what? We need some long exposure. We need some car tail lights there. It's just too pretty to pass up. So the other night, I went down there and I messed with a few exposures and got a pretty good result. So we're gonna go off onto the adventure that I went on the other night, and then we'll come back, we'll edit it, and I'll show you how I did everything. Alright guys, so we're out here looking over at downtown Waikiki, about to get these long exposures. We're going to do a few different exposures. We're going to get a couple at a certain different lengths, and then at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to get the entire cityscape in focus, and then we're going to layer it up in Photoshop so we can really get those light trails going into the city and all that. So right now I have a 3.2 second exposure on it at f3.5 and 100 ISO. You want to keep the ISO as low as possible when you're doing something like this. So, and there's been quite a bit of traffic. So let's see how this first exposure goes. So we did get some good exposure there. I just tried the 5-second exposure and we were able to get some really good light trails there. And that pretty much filled up almost the entire highway. We're gonna layer that one in with the 3.2 second exposure that I got before, and we'll see how that looks. We were able to get some good shots here. Obviously you'll see them better when we bring them into Photoshop. But we got the whole skyline in focus, plus with some awesome light trails. That was at a 10-second exposure I took by accident. And so we've got a lot of stuff to layer up and make look really cool once we throw it into Photoshop. As you can tell by those videos, it was a pretty windy night. We've got the photos in Lightroom. So there was a lot of shake, especially on the background, while we were trying to get the skyline into focus. We were able to do so. We got 4 pretty good images, I think, to be able to blend together. And then it'll end up turning into a final product that looks something like this. So what you want to do is you want to select the images that you plan on blending together. Don't be an idiot like me and go to the Develop tab. Then you can right-click, edit in, and you want to open it as layers in Photoshop. This will just bring them all together on the same Photoshop page, the same Photoshop tab. So now they're all in Photoshop. As you can see down here, they're all selected. What you want to do is you want to go select them all, and then you want to auto align them. And there you go, auto align layers. And this will just, even though the tripod was in the same spot, there's always a little bit of movement, especially when you're doing, every time you touch the camera, there's going to be a little bit of movement. So this is just going to put them all as perfectly aligned as possible. As you can see, I definitely need a new Mac. This one is running like shite. So now they're all aligned. You can tell around here that they've all been shifted a little bit. So what you want to do now, what we're going to do now is we're going to move this one back to the bottom. And we've got the other 3 on top, and we're going to take these 3 and we're going to change the blend mode. So you essentially, a lot of times you could do lighten or you could do screen, but lighten is pretty much going to put all of those together. So I'm going to lighten those. So now we've got all the tail lights in this highway. Looks sick. You can still see here that there's a little bit of car, and that's because of this one, which wasn't selected on the blend. So what you want to do to get rid of that is you just take them and you're just going to merge these layers. You don't need to really worry about going back and individually editing these, especially into Photoshop. So you just merge them all into one layer, and that's going to get rid of the cars that were in this other exposure. Now what you want to do is you want to use the quick selection tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to keep just the highway in here, and then we're going to go and it's going to replace, essentially just swap out the backgrounds. But we want all the tail lights from these long exposures, but we want the sky and the skyline from the fast exposure. And so we'll just go through and we'll grab everything. We'll delete that. Oh, left some of this sky up here. Delete that. And then you can just kind of go through and grab everything you missed. I personally, because when we go in, we're going to get a lot of, there's a lot more detail in the grass from the fast exposure than there was on the long exposure. And as you can see, this skyline is still, oh my God, this Mac fucking sucks.
3 hours later.
And so I'm not going to bore you guys with that. You can hit Command Save, and what that's going to do is it's going to bring it back into Lightroom for you once it's saved, and it's going to bring in the edit of all of them blended together. And what you're going to essentially get is, whenever the fuck this loads, you piece of shit. So what you're going to get is the blended modes together. And then from there, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to crop out where the auto align happened. It's not much, so you only have to crop in a little bit. It's not going to take away anything from your image. And from there, you edit it exactly how you want. So what I did to get this result, which is what I personally enjoyed, was I wanted to take a lot of the yellows out. I wanted to brighten up the sky, put a lot of detail into the skyline, darken up a lot of things. So essentially all you really got to do at this point is, you just want to kind of mess with the exposures a little bit, add a lot of contrast. That's going to bring a lot of detail over here, drop the highlights, raise the shadows, typical stuff. Raise the whites because there's going to be a lot of whites. And what I did was I desaturated almost the yellows entirely to get that white ground effect. And then, kind of mess with the reds and the oranges a bit. Go with the hue, kind of see, because that's like a pretty intense color. Intense red. Could kind of brighten that up a bit. And then what you'll do is you'll kind of just desaturate them both just a little bit, but add some luminance to both so it's a little bright. And from there, you've kind of got a good base of what your street is going to look like. And then you can kind of mess with the skies up here, bring the blues to where you want them. I like those kind of I kind of like those I like those tealy blues, so you can kind of mess with that, and then obviously you're going to want to really sharpen this image up, and you can, see exactly what you're going to be sharpening. So you got that, get everything that's cool. You're going to want a really sharp image. You're going to want to add a lot of clarity to this. And then you've got your skyline in the back. You could brush it. That's what I did. Brush this, brighten it up. And then you can go back in and add some radial filters to it. Exposure, just a little bit. Exposure, some contrast. Raise the highlights. Even kind of darken the shadows a bit in that one. Raise the whites, get those lights popping in the background, add some more clarity to it. You can even add a little bit of texture if you want. And then what you're going to get is a really sharp image. So we start with that. You end up with something like that, and with a lot more tweaking, which I'm going to put into a preset because I really like what I was able to do the other night with the final edit, is something like that. This is essentially what you'll get with a little bit more fine-tuning and things like that, but really the point of this video was to how to actually get these trails, layer them up, and really get the most out of your image. And if you take the time, this edit probably took me about an hour. You can get something like this. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll have some more for you. Heading back to New Orleans soon, so we'll definitely get some really cool street stuff down there, some really cool, just gritty, grungy shit. But this is what we got with these long exposures. Hope you enjoyed them. Can't wait to see what you guys have. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Peace.